Now that we started talking about functions, it's time to talk about probably what is the most common function, and that is a linear function. Now, a linear function has a slope or a constant rate of change, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So let's go ahead and dive in. So looking at the points here, we might not immediately notice any sort of pattern. A lot of times though, it is really easy to notice a pattern if we look at a picture. So I'm going to plot out these points, -2, -6, and all the other ones, and see if I can notice a visual pattern. Well, looking at this and maybe just kind of connecting all the dots here, I can see that there is definitely a pattern, and it does in fact make a line. So let's look at the points and see if we can notice what's happening here. So first off, I notice that all of my points, the x values are increasing by 1 each time. And then if I look and try to find a pattern for the y's, I'm going to notice that they increase by 3 every time. Well, this is actually called the slope or rate of change. So if we look back at our graph, we'll notice that if I take any 2 points and I just count up 3 units, and then I count over 1 unit, I will end up at another point on the line. And we could do that a couple of times just to illustrate that further. Now this rate of change has a particular name. It's called the slope. Generally we use an m to represent it. It's just kind of a traditional letter for the slope. And the slope is formally defined as the change in y over the change in x. That symbol that I'm using there is the Greek letter delta, which stands for change. What we'll end up finding is that the slope is one of 2 things that we really need to kind of understand and describe a line and kind of what its path will be. And the slope for this particular relationship, we saw that every time the y changed by 3, the x changed by 1. Therefore, we would have a slope of 3 over 1. Now, rate of change tends to refer to the slope when the denominator here is 1. So 3 would also be the rate of change in this particular function. So now we've defined slope, which we saw is kind of the rate in which the inputs and outputs change. And in future videos, we'll see how those rates can be looked at in terms of time or in terms of being positive or negative. But for now, hopefully you have a good idea of what slope is and how it applies to a line.